Satnam, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back if you are regular to our programs, and welcome to those of you who may be coming here for the first time. Today, we're going to be presenting a program about the sixth Sikh Guru, Guru Hargobind. So I hope you'll be excited, as I was, to research this a little bit, and I think you'll find out some interesting things about Guru Hargobind. I know I did, and we're going to just pause just for a minute here to see who's coming and give them a chance to come into the class. And if you're just arriving, if you could put your name and location in the chat, in the comments. Hi, Lucy. Good to see you back. And yeah, we're just going to wait for another minute or so before we dive into the actual presentation. It's really windy here. I hope that won't affect the internet. So fingers crossed. If you are having difficulty with any technical side to this, whether it's audio or video, you can let me know. Otherwise, I will assume that it's all going out smoothly. But I know that sometimes when it's really windy here, it can cause problems with the internet. So fingers crossed. Who else is with us? Jazz? Great to see you from the UK. All right. And we're going to start in just a moment. Inderkar, nice to see you again. Yes. Guru Inderkar. Okay, great. From France. Nice. Okay. And yeah, we're just trying to give people a moment here to arrive, and then I will start in on the presentation. And Hargopalkar, also another regular. Nice to see you. Welcome from LA, where it's nice and warm, I think. I think they've been having good weather there. And Kirpal Singh is back with us. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Great to see you. And so we're starting in on this program now. And if you missed the beginning, this is a program focused on the life and legacy of Guru Hargobind. You know, this is a series that we've been doing for a while called The Roots of Sikh Dharma. And it's about understanding the philosophy, the practices, and the history of the Sikhs, and how it can be relevant to you in the 21st century and the Aquarian Age. So let me share my screen with the presentation, and we'll get going here. Great. I hope you all can see that. And as I was saying earlier, if you have any difficulty with audio or video, just let me know in the comments section. Then I can see if I can do anything about that. But otherwise, we are ready to go, and I'm going to bring up the first slide here. Let's say that it's not responding. Let's try this again. No. Okay. Why not? Sorry, technical issues. And while I'm doing that, we have Brian, Alexis, and from Mexico. Great. Why am I not getting this? Come on. Next slide, please. No. No. Oh, these things, you know, they just don't like to work. Let's see here. I apologize. Should just take me a moment to figure this out. No. Wow. This worked perfectly a moment ago. Let's see. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Let's go to view, normal. All right, now maybe. There we go. All right, sorry for the delay. All right, so now we're going to be talking, as I said, about the sixth Guru, Guru Hargobind Sahib. And this is a quote that was written by Guru Das Ji, who lived during the time of Guru Hargobind and several other gurus. We're not going to focus on Bhai Gur Das right now, but this is a quote. The first 5 gurus held the hands of the people, and the sixth guru, Hargobind, is the incomparable God Guru. He is the king of spirituality as well as temporality, and is the immovable emperor of all kings. So this gives you a little taste of how he was revered during the time that he was alive, and afterwards also. But with Bhai Gur Das being a contemporary of Guru Hargobind, I think this gives a nicer understanding of who Guru Hargobind actually was. So he lived from 1595 until 1644. And some of these things you may know already, but I'm going to go through them and we'll touch on them here, and we'll go into a little more detail as we go further. So he was the son of Guru Arjan, and he was born in a place called Wadali near Amritsar. And as a child and young man, his education was actually tasked to Baba Buddha. And if you don't know who Baba Buddha was, he was a very important, very devout Sikh of the Gurus for, I think, 6 or 7, I think maybe even 8 of the Gurus that he was alive for. So, but, you know, in his education, we'll talk about that, about how he was trained. And Guru Hargobind is also known for forming the first military units, the first Sikh army. And he's known for wearing these 2 swords that we're going to be talking about that are symbols of this concept, Miri and Piri. Guru Hargobind also established the Akal Tucket, which is the seat of spiritual authority and for the Sikhs. And we're going to talk about that more too. So let me go on to the next slide. And I welcome Joel from, where are you? Jerusalem. And Maurizio. And welcome to the program. I wanted to bring this little diagram up to show you exactly where Guru Hargobind fits in the families of the Gurus. So some of you may know that from the time of the 4th Guru, let me restate that, the first 4 Gurus were unrelated to each other genetically by blood or family. But from Guru Ram Das on, they were all part of what's typically referred to as the Sodhi clan or family group. And so, as you can see at the top of this diagram, Guru Arjan was a son of Guru Ram Das, and then Guru Hargobind was the son of Guru Arjan. And we can get into the other families, family tree afterwards. But I think for this discussion, what I really wanted to show you was just how Guru Hargobind fits into this. The next successions of gurus can be a little complicated, and I didn't want to get too tied up in that today. But anyway, that gives you a sense of where Guru Hargobind was in the family tree of the gurus. So now I want to focus on Guru Hargobind's childhood. And I'm going to read this aloud. You can read me or whatever you like. There were at least 2 attempts made on the life of young Hargobind, and they were orchestrated by the family of his uncle, who was the elder brother of Guru Arjan, Priti Chand. He resented that he had not been chosen or crowned as the successor to Guru Arjan. This picture on the lower left, it may or may not be historically accurate, but the idea was that to tell the story a little bit, that Guru Hargobind was, apparently the story is that there was a snake charmer, and somehow he threw this snake at young Hargobind, but young Hargobind, even at an early age, was very aware and able to capture the snake and make it safe for everyone around, including himself. There's another account of a poisoning attempt on Guru Hargobind's life. So these were all due to the fact that there was some what we call bad blood in the family, where Guru Hargobind's uncle, and going forward, the family of Priti Chand also continued to try to undermine the guruship of Guru Hargobind as he grew in age and stature and power and importance. So this theme comes back later several times. And I wanted to show this other picture on the right, just again talking about Baba Buddha, a most revered Sikh who lived over 100 years and oversaw the education of young Hargobind. You can imagine having someone of such great experience and wisdom as your tutor or your the person overseeing your education. And of course, Guru Hargobind, as a youth, was educated not just in the normal educational subjects, reading, writing, languages, math, but also for one of the first time, we can say, he was also trained in the martial arts, which was to prove very important, as we'll see, coming up in the story of Guru Hargobind. And so let's go to the next slide. So you may recall, if you know the story of Guru Arjan, he was beheaded, he was tortured by the Mughal emperor. And so as Guru Hargobind rises to power, or rises to fill the throne of the gurus for the Sikhs, it is said that he declared that I will hold weapons, not rosaries, which may or may not have been actually said. I haven't been able to track this down. If you know of it, if you know where that is and can send it to me, that would be helpful. But I think it's about the intent. It's said that Guru Arjan did already communicate to young Hargobind that he should be ready to step into this role of guru, and that upon doing that, he he should train the Sikhs in the martial arts and form an army. So let me just go on with the reading of this. When Guru Hargobind was crowned as the sixth Guru of the Sikhs, he asked for 2 swords, not just 1 sword. He pronounced that from then on, the seat of the Guru should hold both secular leadership, which is embodied in the word miri, comes from the Persian mir, and like held by a king, and also spiritual leadership, or pir, also coming from pir in Persian. The wearing of 2 swords was to symbolize these 2 authorities, and it became a clear call to all Sikhs to become strong, study the martial arts, so as to defend themselves and others against tyranny. This is revolutionary in the way that it demands Sikhs to be focused on spiritual values at the same time that we are also involved in the worldly affairs around us. And this is directly evolved from the teachings of Guru Nanak of living as a householder at the same time that we practice deep spirituality. And we're going to talk a little bit more at the end of the presentation about this concept of miri piri. It's commonly associated with Guru Hargobind, but in my research, I realized that this is actually, this understanding goes back to the teachings of Guru Nanak. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so understanding this information about the first Sikh army, as directed by his father, Guru Arjan, and after his father's martyrdom at the hands of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, Guru Hargobind formed the first Sikh military units to defend the religious freedom of all people against the oppression and tyranny of the Mughals. He maintained a personal bodyguard of 52 trained Sikh soldiers and grew his army to 300 cavalry and 500 infantry. And these numbers are a little vague. As I read about the various battles that Guru Hargobind was involved in, sometimes it mentions that there were 4,000 soldiers on the side of the Guru. Now, some of those, as was common at the time, may have been mercenaries, and I know that word sounds bad, but you know, it's just how things were done in medieval India and even in medieval Europe. There were mercenaries who were available for hire, and they would help with the battle. So that may be what made up some part of the armies under the command of Guru Hargobind during this time. Anyway, Guru Hargobind had to fight 4 main battles to defend the autonomy of the Sikhs from the jealousy and distrust of the Mughal Empire. Emperor Jahangir, who was at first suspicious of the power of the Sikhs, later became more tolerant and then was succeeded by Shah Jahan, who actually was more fanatic than Jahangir. But all the battles that involved Guru Hargobind were ultimately victorious for Guru Hargobind. And as you read some of the things that are attributed to Guru Hargobind, it's very clear that he was acutely concerned with the tyranny, with the oppression at the hands of not just the Mughals, but even some of what we now refer to as hill chiefs, who tended to be Hindu mainly, and how the people were often subjugated by these stronger forces. And so he was very much a social activist in that way, trying to push against, and this goes back, of course, to Guru Nanak as well, the idea of pushing against repression from anyone. All right, and I'm going to keep going. I see we've got Kuku Singh, and great to have you from San Francisco joining us. And I wanted to, for some of you, the idea of understanding these, let me just do something to change this. There, now you can see that better. So understanding the history of the Mughal Empire is somewhat helpful in understanding who were the players during this history of the life of Guru Hargobind we're looking at. So so I mentioned the Emperor Jahangir, who was the emperor when when his father, Guru Arjan, was Guru. And in fact, it was Jahangir who executed Guru Arjan. So Jahangir continued in power during the life of Guru Hargobind, and then Shah Jahan succeeded Jahangir to be the next emperor. And that Shah Jahan continued through the end of the life of Guru Hargobind. And to look at the life of Guru Gobind Singh, which you might want to check out the previous episode of this series where we did focus on the life and legacy of Guru Gobind Singh. You'll see where the Emperor Aurangzeb plays an important role in that history. Anyway, I thought this was important to get a little context. All right, so there are several stories that are, I think, important to understand Guru Hargobind's significance. And this is a story that's, it took a little bit more digging, and I'm not sure I have it completely right. I'll be very frank with you. Some of these stories can be embellished, and it's hard to know what actually happened, but we'll do our best to focus on the key points, I think. So in 1609, Guru Hargobind was arrested and jailed by the Emperor Jahangir. And there may have been trumped up charges. Jahangir was ill during this time, apparently, and he wanted holy people to pray for his health. And in some misguided way, I think that he thought that if he rounded some of these holy people up and kept them in one place, that they would pray for him. A strange way of thinking in my book. Anyway, it was to be a 12-year sentence, but Guru Hargobind was freed after maybe just about 2 years. Again, the stories are hard to sort out. And when he was offered his freedom, Guru Hargobind said that he would not leave unless all the other unjustly imprisoned rajas, or princes, you could say, were also set free. So as a concession, the emperor said that any prisoner who could hold on physically with their hands to one of the hems of Guru Hargobind's clothing, they could accompany him as he was released from prison. So sort of in a clever workaround, Guru Hargobind had a special kurta, we can say, a piece of clothing made that had 52 panels, because there were 52 rajas. And so each one of them could grab onto a different panel of his clothing, and they all could be freed. So this is celebrated in Sikh tradition as Bandi Chor Divas, the Day of Liberation. And it just demonstrates the extent to which Guru Hargobind, and by extension all the gurus, were concerned with justice and equality for all, not just Sikhs. So anyway, that's, I think, an important story. As we go forward, here's another important milestone in the story of Guru Hargobind. So he created what we now know as the Akal Tucket. And there's a fairly recent photograph here that I'm showing you on a big celebration full of people. But the illustration on the right, imagines what it might have been like during the time of Guru Hargobind for him to actually hold court from the Akal Tucket. And if you've ever had the chance to visit Amritsar in India and go to the Harmandir Sahib, the temple, you will undoubtedly have noticed the Akal Tucket building, which is just adjacent to the Harmandir Sahib. And it's beautiful. It's very, very regal. But apparently at the time that it was initially built, it was just a simple 12-foot high platform. And that the rest of the structure was mainly added by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who came later in the history of the Sikhs. The establishment of the Akal Tucket was part of Guru Hargobind's initiative to give the Sikhs more autonomy in their spiritual and temporal authority over themselves, to acquire sovereignty. And this idea of sovereignty was very fundamental in the mind of Guru Hargobind. And much of what he did was to establish that sovereignty and strengthen it. Now, even today, the Jethedar, meaning the high priest or the highest leader within that body of the Akal Tucket, is the highest authority for all matters of religious policy and doctrine. And, even today, there are edicts which are issued from the Akal Tucket. And so it's a vital part of the self-governance for Sikhs worldwide. And this was established by Guru Hargobind. All right, we're going to keep going. This is an amazing story. There apparently were two very special horses, and they were to be gifted to Guru Hargobind. But on their way to be given to him, they were taken by Mughal soldiers because they also saw how beautiful these horses were. And at the time, the Mughals, especially soldiers, could do virtually anything they wanted. So they took those horses to give to the emperor. And when this story was presented in the court of Guru Hargobind, there was a very brave Sikh. His name is Bhai Bidhi Chand Chinna. And he volunteered to go and retrieve the horses. And that meant that he had to go and disguise himself to gain entry into the imperial stables. And he did that to reclaim first one horse, and then a dramatic escape, as that picture sort of in the middle there shows, jumping from the palace walls into a river below on horseback. And then later he went back to reclaim the second horse. There is a story that says that, of course, these wonderful horses were given names. And so the first horse, his name is Dilbag, and the second horse is Gulbag. And it is said that when Bidhi Chand had rescued Dilbag, Dilbag stopped eating and just was very sad. And so it soon became clear that he was missing his friend, companion horse, Gulbag. So it was that convinced Bidhi Chand to go back into the lion's den, so to speak, and disguise himself yet in a different way, and was able to get in, rescue the second horse with just as much drama to get the other horse back, and delivered them to Guru Hargobind. And if you want to know more about this story, which is, well, actually, to know a lot more about Guru Hargobind, I recommend this podcast that you can find at this link here, surajpodcast.com. It's being presented by a wonderful young Sikh historian, Jvala Singh, and he goes through translations of a book that was published, I'd say, in 1843. It was written by a man named Kavi Santok Singh, who lived shortly after the time of our gurus. And it is considered to be historically fairly correct. One of the best sources we have for some of this history. And he goes into a lot of detail around this story and others, detailing the battles that Guru Hargobind was involved in. So I really recommend it. And anyway, so that's another story of Guru Hargobind's life. And here's one more. So, you know, I told you about how the Emperor Jahangir was the man who actually executed Guru Arjan, or, you know, made the decree that he should be executed. And so you would think that that would cause much animosity between the emperor and Guru Hargobind. But after an initial phase of Emperor Jahangir being somewhat reactive to Guru Hargobind, there was a stage later in the life of Jahangir where he gained a deeper understanding, or perhaps was just more confident in his own strength as an emperor. But he gained some appreciation for Guru Hargobind. So one day in 1612, the emperor was hunting in the forest, and he invited Guru Hargobind and his entourage to join them. People in that area where they were hunting told Guru Hargobind's people, really, probably, that there was a man-eating lion that had been terrorizing the villages, and they were hopeful that Guru Hargobind could hunt down the lion and kill it so that it would no longer be attacking people in that area. So as the two groups of people were hunting, the lion jumped out of the jungle, and clearly with the intent to attack the emperor. And the emperor's forces tried, but they missed. They couldn't stop the lion. So the guru, who was very close at hand, Guru Hargobind, was able to put himself between the lion and the emperor and was able to slay the lion, protecting the emperor from any harm. And that's not to say that this completely turned everything around. It was actually still fraught with difficulty. But anyway, an interesting story of the compassion and neutrality that Guru Hargobind held, that he ended up saving the life of the man who had put his father to death. So it's interesting. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about this concept of midi and bidi. And there's a little diagram there that just, you know, if you've seen the symbol that is used for the Sikhs, sometimes in Kundalini Yoga we refer to it as the Adi Shakti. It's more commonly referred to as the Khanda. In fact, the Khanda is just that central sword. a double-edged, straight, heavy sword. But the two swords on the right and the left, they represent this concept of midi-bidi. So it's very fundamental. So although Guru Hargobind was the first Sikh Guru to wear two swords, this concept goes back to Guru Nanak. Midi-bidi is foundational to Sikh philosophy and has been a continuing challenge for Sikhs to understand and integrate into daily life. And I don't mean that they are failing, but rather that it is something to the one works with throughout your life to realize where the boundaries are and where the overlap is. So we are instructed to find the balance between our focus on elevated consciousness or connection to the divine with the need to manage the practicalities around us. Guru Nanak told us to live in this world, but not to be only of this world, to live as householders, but also keep our connection to the one, the divine. As when we work with other paradoxes like Raj Yoga, dominion, unity, or Sant Sabai, saint warrior, or Shakti Bhakti, action, devotion. The key is to avoid being pulled only to one side. This also invokes the Western concept of the separation between church and state. So these are concepts that Guru Hargobind was very clear to remind Sikhs about, but it also plays into how Sikh identity grew and expanded through the other gurus, through the life of the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, and then after that period of the gurus, and even into understanding the early history of Sikhs after the gurus, the history around Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the history of the Akali movement, the early history through the 20th century. And even today, these concepts are alive and very much at play as leaders and even individuals struggle to find this balance between knowing where the line is on when MIDI needs to step forward or step back, and Biddy needs to step forward or step back. It is more likely that success will be found with some blending of these concepts rather than just choosing one at a time, so that we are able to focus on the needs around us, but see those needs through the lens of our spirituality. So if there is a personal challenge, being sure that you understand the situation around you from that connection of the divine, not allowing yourself to be drawn into petty, minor problems, and see the larger picture. Or perhaps, in a bigger context, a war. Right now, we're living through a time when there is war in Ukraine, and how to understand where leaders, where emphasis should be placed. So these are times where we can draw on this concept of midi-bidi to help understand our own understanding of the situation, but also to understand our actions, our convictions through these somewhat challenging times. So I'm going to stop the presentation here and open the discussion for any questions or comments that you'd like to share. And yeah, I see that Paul Manku was asking about the source, and then someone else put the web link for that. So thank you. And I would love to hear, perhaps some of you have your own understanding of MIDI and BIDI, or perhaps you have questions around that. And also, perhaps you have some life lesson where you have encountered this struggle within yourself or observed it in others. Love to hear from you. If you want to write something in the chat. I want to let you know that we are always having new programs coming out from Sikh Dharma International. So if you keep checking in with us, and best is to sign up to our email list, and then you will be sent a notification of the various programs that we're offering, if that's your interest. I'm going to bring back myself here. Okay. So I'm hoping some of you will put a question or a comment. I can't help but go back and just underscore the importance of understanding the history of the gurus. You know, I've been on this path a long time, and I keep learning stuff, you know, important, meaningful stuff. And it's partly that maybe we all have our own trajectory of how fast we can absorb things, and that's fine, you know. But I do find that the more effort I put in, then it is amazing how there is still a lot to be learned. I was watching a program the other day with some people speaking, and just a casual comment by someone there opened my eyes. They said that of the very first Panj Pyare, when the first Baisakhi happened, that four of the people who volunteered their heads were not from Punjab. And that was really like a little startling, because there's so much, I think, a sort of lazy tendency to think that only Sikhs are from Punjab, but actually, you know, not only in recent times, but even in the past, people were inspired to step into Sikhi, even if they were not born into it. All right, so Hargo Palkar is asking, how old was Guru Hargobind when he became Guru? So that was when he was 11 years old, if I recall correctly. His father said goodbye. Some historians believe that he explained to young Hargobind that would be the last time that they would see each other, that he would not come back from that encounter with the emperor, and that he should be prepared. And this is perhaps where he communicated that Guru Hargobind should train his Sikhs in martial arts. It may be where he planted the idea that Guru Hargobind should form the Akal Tucket. It's, you know, we don't have any historians who are reporting this in any real accuracy, but some of the stories that are told kind of point to these ideas. Whether they actually happened, we're not sure. Paul Monku is asking, stress of life at the moment makes it so difficult to maintain the spiritual connection when the mind is weighed down by material needs. You know, that's just so true. I'm sure everyone on this call is resonating with that comment. And so how do we find our way to find the balance? How do we stay connected? What do you do to stay connected? I can answer that question, but I would love to see if some of you want to jump in and share with all of us what it is that helps you stay connected to your own divinity, to the inner connection to the divine, to give you that perspective to see things in that light and not be just stuck in the situations in your life, the stress of your life, not just weighed down. And, weighing down upon all of us can be many things. Some of them are not even in our control. So then the question is, well, if you can't do something to change the situation, how do you change how you respond to that situation? And that's a practice. Some people will refer you to the practice of mindfulness. Others will tell you that meditation perhaps is the best way. And Pritpal has just shared, the best I can manage at the moment is taking regular walks and appreciating nature. I have to agree with you. I do that almost every day. And fortunately, I live in a place where I can get into some open spaces and nature and trees and hills and breathe. And, it really does help. But perhaps for others, it's a combination of nature and perhaps other practices, whether it may be reciting banis or singing shabads. These are excellent practices that bring the Guru's words to your mouth. And what I find is when you recite Bani enough, then even when you're not reciting and you're focusing on doing things in your life, then still in your mind, the Bani seems to be flowing and reminding you to stay connected. And I think that's one of the most beautiful places that we can get to in our practice, so that we are connecting to the anahat nad, that sound current that resounds without us needing to do anything. It's the unstruck sound that resonates within us. And what about the rest of you? Other ideas? What do you do? What do you find helpful to have this balance of midi and bidi? Lucy says, daily sadhana and joining online Sangat like this with Global Sikh Dharma International 3HO community. Absolutely. And perhaps, I don't know where everybody's situation is with COVID, but in some places on the planet, it's getting a little relaxed and people can be together safely. And that is a great way to feel supported by like-minded people, whether that's coming together to chant or just breathe, to take a walk with someone. All of those things are good. Pritpal is asking, what exactly is the unstruck sound? If I could tell you exactly what it is, I would be a much better person. Through many years of study and practice, the best I can do is give you some, perhaps just suggestions of where you may find an experience of it. Because the unstruck sound is something that really has to be experienced. We can talk about it, but then it's just an intellectual thing. And so what I suggest is Perhaps you have some Bani or some Shabad or even just a mantra that you can recite and have some experience of that gives you a feeling of quieting your mind, of shutting down the constant dialogue that's in your head, or at least moving it to the side so that you can feel space and you can breathe and feel connected to your inner self. Some might say your true self. And slowly, eventually, it's like a kind of dawning or a slow opening of a door of experience. You get given this gift of feeling that divine connection through the sound, through the blending of your consciousness with the actual sound current. That's the nod that is within Gurbani, within the Shabad, within the recitation that you are practicing. As you say the words, it invokes that presence of the divine within you. I mean, the divine is in all of us all the time, but it's a matter of awareness. So it's a matter of being able to put aside our focus on the more mundane aspects of our life and opening to that inner realm more. And in those moments, then you start to feel that anahatna, that unstruck sound. It comes slowly, perhaps, for most people. So be patient. Lucky Singh is saying, I sing along with some Shabads or Gurbani and try to sing myself later. Yeah, so perhaps you've had the experience of going to a Gurdwara and singing with the Kirtan. For me, that was the most amazing experience in my early days, and still is an amazing transformational experience to be had by anyone. But I remember going and trying to find the words in the Amrit Kirtan book, and sing along with the ragis, and it was amazing because you realize that the words that you're singing, in many cases, are the words of our gurus that they said, they sang, and then these were written down, and they are still with us today. And the singers, the ragis, the musicians are replicating that energy, that vibration of sound. And then when we put it in our mouth, it's fine to listen to it. It's transforming and beautiful and uplifting. But when we sing it along with it, then those same energetic syllables are going through our mouth, are affecting our own consciousness. And that's transformation. That's where the opportunity for transformation lies. All right, I am getting near to the end of our program. Anyone have any last questions or comments that you want to share? We're going to wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. I want to thank you all for participating and listening. And I would ask you to like this program if you're on Facebook and share it with others through either YouTube or Facebook. The recording of this will be there for others to watch later, or you to rewatch if you want to come back and go back over something that you didn't understand. Also, just know that I will be producing another program soon, and we'll let you know as soon as that's ready. And I guess that's going to be it for today. So I want to thank you all again and look forward to seeing you down the road. Some of you may have been looking forward to getting together with us with the other people from Sikh Dharma International, as we used to do at the summer solstice gathering in New Mexico. That was canceled for the last 2 years, and again, I'm afraid it's going to be canceled this year. We hope to see you at the following year, where we usually have some programs going on that you could participate in. Look for the online e-solstice that 3HO will be putting on, and we will, Sikh Dharma International will also participate in that, presenting some programming in that online program taking place around the weekend of the 19th of June, I believe. And so we look forward to seeing you then as well. And I guess that's going to wrap it up. So I'm going to say, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. See you next time.